Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it's tax day, and in an effort to get in just under the wire, I'm going to do an active charity today and allow you to think that you won one of our competitions from last week. I'm not sure if I can technically write that off on my 2021 taxes. That might be a 22 thing, but I'll call my accountant today. I'm sure he's not busy, so I'll call him and check on whether this will be able to be written off of my 2022 taxes.
Tom, I'm going to start the show over. I don't appreciate the whole charitable aspect of the thing. Yeah, we will definitely get into our fantasy results. The huge recruiting weekend for the Buckeyes, and we probably don't have time to get into the bold predictions, but it's okay because it was just a spring game, so it doesn't really matter. It's not as important as, say, a fantasy game draft of the spring. In fact, if you just do we want to start with the bold predictions? Just get that out of the way and just toss that aside if that would make you happier.
Well, I'm trying to remember if you said on the air or after we stopped recording last week. I said, which one of these do you want to win? If you had to choose one, and you were like, oh, definitely bold predictions. So, I mean, obviously the more important of the two. So I guess let's start with those.
So Tom, I because it's just a spring game, like my bold predictions didn't go as well as I had hoped. However, they went as well as they did last year. So I feel pretty good about that aspect of it. Let me find one. I guess I should have had them ready for you because here we go. This is some of these you look back on and it's like, yeah, that's pretty disappointing. My first one was Kyle McCord accounts for at least 3 touchdowns. He only accounted for 1 because receivers weren't getting open. My second one, however, was that either Caden Curry, Tyleik Williams, or JT Tuimoloau has 2 sacks. JT Tuimoloau did have 2 sacks, so that's 1 point. I had Emeka Egbuka has a catch of at least 43 yards. He dropped that one. The one against Jair Brown that would have gone for whatever I needed. He dropped that. Disappointed in that. My fourth one was CJ Hicks has at least 1 tackles for loss. He only had a half of a tackle for loss. So I feel like that's a scorekeeper error where they credited a pile jumper with taking away half of one of CJ Hicks's tackles for loss. So I might want to give myself a point on that one, but I know you won't, so I'll just keep it at 1. Keon Gray scores a touchdown. Devin Brown at the end of the game kept looking at Caleb Burton to no avail, and he should have looked at Keon Gray's, and I would have had that one. My 2-pointer, Kai Stokes has an interception. That
spiritually, you got that one right.
He dropped the one against CJ Stroud at the end of the first half. You know, coming across the middle, has it in his hands. That one disappointed me. The last one, my 3-pointer, which I would have gotten if this was my 2005 Texas game. If any number of just one thing happens, then I win. I get my 3-pointer, which was I will win the fantasy matchup by at least 7 points. And that didn't happen. We'll get into what exactly did happen. But so I ended up with 1 point. Tom, what did you do?
Well, in my continued effort to be charitable towards you, I will give you the extra second point that you wanted for the. You can take it for the CJ Hicks thing. I will give you one of the 2 points for Kai Stokes. I'll give you one. I will give you 1 point as an act of charity and brotherhood in this Easter season of ours, Tony. So that would get you a 2. That's a very strong showing. That's a good. Wow, biggest blowout in bold prediction history. Crazy. All right, well, since I've already won, I guess we'll just go through. Caden Curry. I said Caden Curry over 1 sack. I don't think he was credited with any sacks, but there were a couple when you were watching. It was like, well, that would have been a sack during other portions of the game, but he was not given credit for him, so not going to count that one. Jaden Ballard with a catch of 36 yards or longer. No. Marvin Harrison, multiple touchdown catches in the spring game. No, he did not have a touchdown catch. Ohio State tight ends, at least 5 catches, at least 45 yards. G. Scott almost did that by himself. He had finished with 5 and 40. Joe Royer had a couple catches. Bennett Christian had a couple catches. Sam Hart had a catch or two. Yes, hit that one comfortably. That's 1 point. Jordan Hancock or J.K. Johnson has an interception. Hancock could have had one against C.J. Stroud, made a real nice break on a ball, and just got one hand on it instead of two. So no dice there. But again, much like your Kai Stokes one, I felt it was pretty close. Xavier Johnson, at least 34 yards of total offense. He hit that comfortably as well. I think he ended up at 50 or something like that. So that gets me 3 points overall. Kyle McCord throws 4 touchdown passes. Nope. No, the wind, I think, was working against the passing game a little bit on Saturday, but still a comfortable win in the only competition that you said really mattered. So
congratulations.
It's a big day for me. I would like to thank the Academy. Please don't come up on stage and slap me.
Congratulations on getting one more prediction right than I did.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know in your heart that you really meant that, which is what really is the important thing to me.
I'm proud of you. I mean, this was something that didn't happen a lot last year where you would win the bold predictions. And so now you've started off a preseason effort, an exhibition bold predictions game in grand fashion. Now, can you take that to the regular season and make something with it? Do you use this to springboard you towards bold predictions to come? Probably not. What I will do, I will learn from this. I will watch the film. I will let it fuel my fire. I will let it burn in my heart how I should have won, how the refs screwed me, how the weather screwed me. I will declare war on the weather. Today the weather is winning though, so I've not exactly got out and started the war. I've just declared it. Like, yeah, I'll get to it, but just know, it's going to happen. So it was not my best day. 1 of 7 is not great per se. But again, as I have told you time and time again when I lose these things, Tom, it's the boldest predictions that don't come true.
Yeah, and I know that you won a frame last year as if you were, winning a lot more of these than I was, but I think I won the Rose Bowl. I'm pretty sure I won the Michigan game, so I think we're on and before that, boy, I honestly couldn't tell you, but I feel like you got off to a very hot start last year, and then I'm the one wearing the Mets pullover today, but you were the one who faded down the stretch last year. So yeah, it is. I think we're on a genuine winning streak over here.
Of one regular season game.
Couldn't be prouder. Tony, the granddaddy of them all. The Rose Bowl is the 3-pointers of bold prediction contests. We've said this for years.
I don't know that we have, Tom. Maybe you said it in 2021 and then also are now saying it in 2022, thereby getting the pluralization that you require.
Thank you.
Do not use my words against me, though.
Tony, let's let you have your moment in the sun. Let's talk about the spring game draft, the spring game fantasy football draft. Once again, my active charity that I referenced off the top was that Tony had drafted Noah Ruggles, and I had told him, Tony, don't worry about it. We found out Noah Ruggles was not even going to be at the game. Not unavailable, just literally not going to be at the games. Okay, Tony, in an active charity, in this season of Easter, I will allow you to take another kicker. And then we had a little miscommunication, so we're not counting the kickers at all. So even though my kicker would have put me over the top for a victory, we're not going to count it, and it's okay, because I've already won the thing that we were really both most interested in winning. So that's okay.
I don't know that we do know if your kicker would have won it. But also, Tom, remember the very first thing you said about Noah Ruggles? You said, Tony, don't worry about it. And so I stopped worrying about it. We never actually communicated what needed to happen next in terms of get a new kicker, we both go with Jake Seibert. I grabbed one of the 3 walk-ons that played, Parker Lewis, just out of the stands from USC visiting, something like that. DeJuan Jones, like we never communicated it. And I think we could share equal blame here. But again, once you said, don't worry about it, I stopped worrying about it.
Well, I think that's really on us for not spending more time, within like 3 feet of proximity of each other on Sunday or Saturday. We didn't really have a lot of chances to talk about it. only standing next to each other for about 3 hours of podcasts and 2 hours of spring game, and then miscellaneous other times. So, I mean, it's only 7-8 hours. Like we barely had time to have a conversation. So yeah, I think this is one of the things where we can just hold each other blameless and it's okay.
I think it was about maybe the second or third drive when one of us mentioned, we probably should have set starters because we both drafted 3 backups, 3 emergency guys in case. And you know what, Tom? I definitely, if I had been thinking about it, because Julian Fleming was one of my starters, I saw him not working out, not warming up. I definitely would have gone. And this pains me as I look at it now. The only other receiver I had that I drafted was Xavier Johnson. So I would have had to put him in the lineup. And that, Tom, would have put me over what I needed or what I wanted, not what I needed. But anyway, let's get into this. Do we need to say exactly who won right now? Is that important? Do you want to go through each player? How do you want to reveal this?
I think we can at least reveal your MVP. You have the full scoring. I have not seen the full scoring, but yes, the MVP of the day was running back Evan Pryor, who scored basically half of Tony's points.
And we were doing a PPR scoring system, so he had 4 catches. That helped. Like 40 yards receiving, 60 yards rushing, and a touchdown. So he scored me 20.6 points, half of my total. Tom, and I guess we'll just go ahead and say this. I won by the resounding number of 42.16 to 39.9. And that is with outscoring what Jake Seibert did, because again, we were both using Jake Seibert. So really, it nullifies. Tom told me not to worry about the kicker. And again, this is some of the downside of the box score already disappearing. God, we don't know exactly how many points Jake Seibert scored and where because I think he had a field goal at one point, and 3 points wouldn't have been the difference in this game. So
42 yards was his field goal, which would have gotten me 4.2 points under the scoring system. Fortunately, Tony, we've got an episode later. Fortunately, Tony, later in the week, we have an episode where we're going to be rewatching the spring game and discussing that. So that, I did go back and rewatch, and with the knowledge that, hey, the box score had disappeared, yeah, it would have been 5.2 points for Jake Seibert.
For both of us.
39.9 plus 5.2, is that greater than 42? Listen, friends, we're all out of time. We're going to let Tony have this one. It's okay.
We agreed not to worry about kickers.
Right. I wasn't worried at all because I knew I was going to win because 39.9 plus 5.2. I can do math.
And really, this would have been really, really ugly if not for Evan Pryor, because I had Julian Fleming, and obviously he did nothing. And Keon Gray's got me 3.5 points. Emeka got me 7.9. The really disappointing thing, Tom, is one of my 3 defensive starters was Kai Stokes, and that dude was the MVP of the game, and he got me 0 points. So I don't know how much I really even like this scoring system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like we both did a pretty good job picking defensive players. You had Jack Sawyer, you had Kai Stokes, you had you had JT Tuimoloau on your bench. I had Caden Curry, I had Jordan Hancock. I mean, like we had mm-hmm. Probably the 5 or 6 defensive players who were maybe the most impactful during the course of the game. But yeah, the scoring system did not allow for a lot of defensive points. So should have picked Cam Kittle, just as I told you last week.
No, like, do I do this? If you would have gone with Mayan Williams, you would have won easily. But you had to go with Travion Henderson. I told you not to do it, but you're like, no, I know what I'm doing. I pick better after I've had a few. And it's like, well, here you are. And you lost without any kind of controversy. You even got a touchdown from your tight end. Like Joe Royer scored 11.7 points, which was 1/10 of a point less than Jackson Smith-Njigba, your high scorer. Like that Joe Royer catch from Kyle McCord almost won it for you, but it was obviously not enough to win it. Would have had to be another like 30 yards downfield or 25 because of the PPR, and it just didn't happen for you. I'm sorry about that.
I think the highlight of the game was sitting there right next to you and just constantly looking whether the ball was on the 34-yard line. And it was like the ball was like never placed on the 34. It was like on the 35. It was on the 33. It was never on the 17. It was like on the 19. It was on the 14. It was like, come on. Mm-hmm. Don't you guys know the rules? Why don't you? every touchback goes to the 34. This is now can't. I mean, Ryan Day is like changing rules. He's changing downs and distances. He's changing the clock. Just put the ball on the 34. Like, come on, we know you listen. Just go ahead and do us a solid.
There was a time where it was Devin Brown was a quarterback and Keon Graves was out there, and I think Evan Pryor may have been out there, and they were on the 34, and I just kept thinking like, throw it to Graves, It's going to be a huge, and I'll get my 3-pointer, my 2-pointer, whatever. I will win the bold predictions, and it just never happened. So, congratulations to me. So we split the contests, which is, I guess, is the best thing for the show, because you don't want one guy winning everything like I did last year. It kind of just spoils the mood.
I'm so excited. I'm going to keep real good track of, we need like a listener to just like keep track on like a Google spreadsheet, because it seems like something that neither of us is actually going to do, but I desperately want to know the results. There was a guy last week after, I think, week 1 where I did a terrible job on bold predictions because I was way too bold. And you were like, oh, football will happen. 3 points. Yay. And you won, 5-0 or something. And a listener very helpfully made a graphic with a very sad-faced me and a very happy-faced you. And then all the weeks that I won, we never saw another graphic. So I don't know. I don't remember which listener that was, but suffice it to say, you just made the list, buddy.
It sounds like you found my burner account.
One of.
Yeah, one of. Do we need to transition to recruiting right now? Because it was a pretty good weekend for the Ohio State Buckeyes on the recruiting trail. A bunch of visitors for the spring game. They got commits from 2 of them. First being wide receiver Bryson Rogers out of Zephyr Hills, Florida. Wiregrass Ranch High School, which is a pretty cool name for a high school, much better than most high schools. Tom, he's a 3-star guy, the number 49 receiver in the nation, number 367 player overall, according to the 24/7 composite, the number 73 player in the state of Florida alone. And I don't know why Ohio State is bothering with these guys, but I do like to remind people that when Jackson Smith-Njigba committed, he was the number 59 receiver in the 2020 class, and he turned out to be okay. And when I watch Bryson Rogers, he's got all kinds of offers, but he's a route runner and he's fast, but he's just a really crisp, kind of advanced type of receiver when I watch him. So I think this is exactly what Brian Hartline is looking for, Tom. And when they take somebody this early, it's not a reach.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Brian Hartline has probably earned the benefit of the doubt on these types of things. And when in doubt, if Brian Hartline and the recruiting services disagree on how good a player is, I know who my money is on, and it is not on the recruiting services. Brian Hartline, has his pick of the best wide receivers in the country virtually every year. So if he's taking a guy 8 months out from early signing day, that tells you he is a pretty big believer in that guy. And you look at Bryson Rogers, and he fits what Brian Hartline wants in all the different ways. He's a good sized kid. We saw him on Saturday, and he is he's listed at 6'2", and he is a legit 6'2" for sure. Mm-hmm. And he can play outside, he can play inside. They're not really doing I think they've kind of figured out that we're going to recruit the 5'9" guy to play in the slot, and then we're going to recruit the 6'6" guy to play outside like that. That isn't, they're sort of starting to shift away from that a little bit more and have more interchangeable wide receivers. And he fits in that mold perfectly. Like, he's a 6'2" guy. You talked about him being a good route runner, good hands from, you watch the film, it looks like he has good hands, good athleticism. I had Mark Givler on the Morning Scoop today to talk about him, and he was just raving about what he thinks Bryson Rogers can be. And, we'll see where he ends up in terms of recruiting rankings, but I suspect he will not be a 3-star by the time he puts pen to paper in December.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I can definitely see working in the slot and dealing with traffic and stuff like that. But as we know, they're going to move them all around and figure out where they work best. Now, Ohio State's still in on a couple of 5-star receivers as well. Brandon Ennis, Bill Greenfield's good about Ohio State's chances out of American Heritage, which Ohio State already has a commitment from running back Mark Fletcher out of American Heritage. The interesting thing here is Carnell Tate, who plays at IMG, but he's from Chicago, where not everybody, a lot of people are expecting him to end up at Ohio State, but now there's this rumbling that Tennessee is making a push with their NIL, and that's certainly ruffled some feathers. But as I posted on our message board, like if I'm Tennessee, Carnell Tate is probably the one receiver in this class that I'm going after with NIL. If I can lure somebody, and we know they've done that with the quarterback in 2023, I believe it's 2023, but you go
Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, you go and you get a receiver for him as well. Now, will like logic eventually take hold, and it's like, probably better to go play receiver at Ohio State than Tennessee. And so this is just the new age of recruiting, where it's one more factor to deciding. And he could go to Tennessee and play immediately and perhaps start next year. You go to Ohio State, you might be able to work your way in, but you also might not. Look what's happened with Julian Fleming. But it's going to be an interesting one to watch, and you just wonder exactly where he will side. Whether it's I can't even say the head or the heart. Is it the wallet or the I don't know, long-term wallet? I don't know.
He's such an interesting case because he had his decision date set for October 6th or October 8th or something last year, and this has forever been discussed as an Ohio State versus Notre Dame battle. And he set a decision in October, and then it didn't happen, and he pushed it back, and he was going to decide again in November or December, and then that didn't happen. And there was talk maybe he was going to decide in like January, and then that didn't happen, and it's just kind of like Ohio State has always been part of it. But it's like the decision keeps, the can keeps getting kicked down the road a little bit. So, we'll see where he ends up. Bill Green has been fairly optimistic about Ohio State's chances here all along, and, has recently sort of said, well, this might be a highest bidder situation, in which case, Ohio State, I guess, could go, try and outbid Tennessee for him. But, I don't know that the drop off from Carnell Tate to whoever else Brian Hartline would bring in lieu of Carnell Tate, if Carnell Tate's not there, that drop off is probably not nearly as big as the drop off between Carnell Tate and whoever Tennessee would bring in as the replacement there. So, kind of worth keeping an eye on there. But I mean, I had Mark Givler on the morning scoop on Monday morning, and he ran through a ton of names, and there are plenty of options there for Ohio State. They're looking at 3, possibly 4 receivers this year, depending on how the class shakes out. But, it seems they're off to a very, very good start with Bryson Rogers, and they're in on a whole bunch of other guys. So, this is not one where losing any one individual recruitment, like you cannot sign all of the, we can't bring all, we can't get all the puppies is, I guess, the analogy here. Like, you go see go find a bunch of puppy. You go to a dog who has, or a breeder, or a rescue, whatever, a place where there are puppies. You can't save all the puppies. You can't bring all the puppies home. You have to pick. You can only pick so many puppies, and that's where Ohio State is. Like there are more good wide receivers who would like to go home with Brian Hartline than there are spots in Brian Hartline's class. So yeah, that's of all the positions to worry about in terms of Ohio State recruiting, wide receiver is probably dead last on that list.
Are you saying Brian Hartline should adopt and not shop, or shop not adopt? Like what should he do there?
Adopt, Tony. You always go rescue. Yes.
Is that the transfer portal?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a real good question. Yeah, this analogy may not be holding up. As we go through it. Yes, we have a rescue dog. She catches frisbees well, not very good with footballs though.
Have you seen anything from the Jonte Cook, the Texas receiver who visited? He's from DeSoto, which is just
Dontre Wilson.
Dontre Wilson's old school, but he visited Texas, and he was upset because all they have there is swimming trophies. There's no football trophies at Texas. He goes to Texas A&M, says something like, "I still ain't seen no football trophies," and then finally got to see some football trophies at Alabama. So good for him. I hope all goes well for him. If he wants to see some football trophies, the WAC certainly has plenty. Tom, the other commitment that the Buckeyes got this weekend was 4-star cornerback Dijon Johnson out of Wharton High School in Tampa, Florida. And he's the number 29 corner in the class, the number 273 player overall, number 50 player in the state, 6'1", 190. You look at him, and you've got pictures of him. He looks like he's a 6'1", 190-pound cornerback. He looks like he's a big kid who, you watch him, and I don't know. I looked at your pictures of him, and he's kind of he had a scowl for some reason. Like there's a scowl on his face, and then you watch his highlights, and it's like, I think he plays with a scowl. I think he's like an angry corner, which could mean he becomes an angry safety or slot corner type of thing, slot safety, the nickel back type of situation. But a lot to like in him as well. Like I said, big, physical, long corner, and that's exactly what Ohio State is always looking for.
Yeah, he very much fits the mold there as well. And, whether he ends up as a corner or a safety, it sounds like both of those are really viable options. This is not, a guy who's listed as a corner, but is, really everyone knows he's going to play safety. It sounds like both are absolutely options. And whether that's an outside corner or slot or something else, flexibility is kind of the name of the game for Ohio State in a lot of these spots. I mean, we talked about with the wide receivers. You don't want the pure outside guy or the pure slot guy. You want the guys who can kind of move around, give you more options. It sounds like he very much fits that mold there. Again, this is another guy who you're taking a guy who's ranked a little bit lower pretty early in the cycle. So that tells me they see something there. They're in on plenty of other guys, plenty of other corners, and they're going to take probably 4 defensive backs this class, probably, maybe 5. I mean, you've already got one in the class. You've got Malik you've got 2. You've got Cedric Hawkins and Malik Hartford already in the class. Add in Dijon Johnson. Okay, so now you've probably got 2 more. These are a relatively limited number of spaces. You're not giving one away right now. This is not this is not an active charity to take a guy on 8 months before early signing day. So, I think they're going to. They seem very happy with him. Mark Givler, who I talked to, obviously for the Morning Scoop, was very, very high on him. Thinks he may be one of those guys who's, sees his ranking shoot up quite a bit as people get a little more exposure to him. He plays in a pretty good league up near Tampa, so that's he's facing good competition already. So that's something that's worth. I think he's going to be one that they're very happy they have kind of set up now. And I asked Mark, okay. They get commitments from 2 Florida kids 8 months out. We know what the track record with Florida kids is in terms of sticking with commitments. Mark kind of said it's more of a South Florida thing in terms of guys kind of flipping and all that. So keep an eye on it. But it sounds like they're Ohio State's pretty happy with them right now. They're pretty happy with Ohio State right now, and only 8 months ago till signing day.
No public word yet on Dylan Raiola, the 2024 quarterback that visited and number 1 quarterback in the class. Could be happening, who knows, publicly. And I guess I think everybody that follows this sort of thing is maybe on commitment watch, just waiting. But again, being a 2024 kid, he may take some time. And but with the sooner you get that guy in, and the fact that Jaden Davis, the other 2024 guy they're in on, was going to visit Ohio State, and Ohio State was maybe not. We don't really have time right now, or just convincing him not to go. And I think he ended up visiting Penn State at some point this weekend. But that's a pretty good sign for Raiola. And then the sooner you get him in, the sooner he can be the Pied Piper for the 2024 classes, which that's what you always want. If you can build it that way, you want that guy to come in and just bring everybody else with them. And there's a bunch of 2024 kids the Buckeyes are already in on. Yeah,
I mean, this is one of these, normally when we talk about players, we talk about watch what they do, not what they say. With this, just look at what Ohio State is doing here. You mentioned Jaden Davis. That's a name that we have been talking about on this show and on Morning Scoop for over a year now. He's been he's like one of the biggest, one of the biggest names in the quarterback world. 247 has him as the number 2 quarterback in the country, the number 9 overall player in the nation. And it's like, wow, why would they not want that guy to visit? Well, guess who the 247 has the number 1 quarterback and the number 1 overall player in the nation? Why it's Dylan Raiola. And there has been plenty of buzz around Raiola being leaning strongly towards Ohio State. You're getting the crystal balls. You're getting Ohio State telling Jaden Davis, like, well, why don't we hold off now for a little bit? You're not doing that unless you're feeling pretty good about having a pretty good chance with Raiola to close that deal relatively soon. Saw him on Saturday as well at the spring game. Corey Dennis was driving him around in a golf cart. So he's getting plenty of individual attention. And there was conversation about Raiola potentially going to USC. Sounds like that has not happened and maybe won't happen. It's everything from Ohio State's end and everything from Raiola's end is sort of looking like what it would look like if this was kind of getting close to ending and ending in Ohio State's favor. So we'll kind of continue to monitor it. But yeah, it sure seems like there might be a pretty big boom coming for the 2024 class already, and that would be, I believe, the first commitment for the 2024 class. So that would be a pretty good way for Ohio State to start that class.
Yeah, definitely not a bad start. And then, Tom, while we were recording, we had some breaking news hit from the transfer portal as defensive lineman Jacoby Cowan has entered the portal. And as we talk about on this show, there's a pretty simple formula that you can look at if you're wondering who is looking to transfer. It's 3 years having not played yet, 2 or 3 years having not played yet. You're getting passed by younger guys. That's the kind of formula, and that's exactly what Jacoby Cowan has been. He's been injured most of his career. He was a 2020 class guy, so this is his third year, heading into his third year. I'm pretty sure I saw him get off the bus. I don't believe we talked before we started recording, and neither of us saw him on the field, which is definitely not a good sign. And so he'll be hitting the portal, former 4-star guy, but just never made a move. Again, was injured his first year. Not sure how much injuries held him back last year, but just always playing from behind, and was kind of even though he's a 4-star guy, was a little bit of a tweener. What was he going to become? Had to reshape his body, I think, when he got here, and just never really took. And so he's in the portal, North Carolina kid. Maybe he heads back home, but he's probably just looking for an opportunity to play at this point. Yeah,
to your point, he very much fits the profile of the portal guy who has been here a couple of years. And then, if you're a defensive end and you've got JT Tuimoloau out and Jack Sawyer ahead of you, and you saw Caden Curry looking good on Saturday, it's like, okay, now there's guys who are a year, 2 years behind you who are potentially already ahead of you on the depth chart. He was always, when we watched practice last year, he was kind of always right around Cormonte Hamilton in line, generally, to 6th, 7th in line in some of those drills. And, if you're 6th, 7th in line and you got a bunch of guys ahead of you and you're entering your third year, Hamilton entered the portal back in January, I think. And then now Jacoby Cowan, just very much fits the...
Darian Henry Young
too,
part of that class as well.
Yeah, they're just... that's kind of the point in your career where you kind of figure like, okay, this is maybe not going to happen here. So you can go find, the nice thing is now you don't have to go sit a year out. Now you can go find a spot. And, as you mentioned, North Carolina kid, does he go to Wake Forest? Does he go to Appalachian State, Charlotte? There's a bunch of good options down there and in that mid-Atlantic region. So yeah, best of luck to him. Never a person you heard bad things about. Just seemed like he was just sort of buried on that depth chart a little bit. And so now you have the opportunity to go somewhere else and, maybe make an impact, as soon as this fall.
Yeah, early enrollee back in 2020, the one practice we got to see, he was there and getting work in. And so nothing but the best for him. Tom, I think that wraps it up for this episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Any further congratulations you wanted to bestow upon me? You don't need to, but if you wanted to.
No, I'm just happy that finally, by allowing you not only to choose whether you wanted the first pick or not, by giving you a certain amount of grace around the kickers, by not insisting too significantly that you count all of the points that I earned on Saturday. I'm just glad that we were able to make this happen for you, buddy. I'm really excited. I know, these kinds of things don't happen all the time for you. So I hope you really take the time to enjoy it.
We don't have any more time. We do need to go. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank Tom for being so gracious in defeat. A little too gracious, actually, as I think about it now, but that will go ahead and do it for this episode. As Tom mentioned, we are going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the spring game in the next episode. Went back and rewatched some things we saw, some things that confirm some previous beliefs and things of that sort of nature. So look for that eventually, but thank you all for joining us here today, and we will talk to you guys later.